Okay. And at this point, I would like to introduce Dr. Benson. We're very honored this evening to have with us as guest presenter, the curator of the exhibit, Wandering Spirit, African Wax Prints, Dr. Gifty Benson. Her discussion of the history of African wax prints is made possible by a grant from CSU's Lilla B. Morgan Memorial Endowment Fund. And this fund was created by the family and friends of CSU's former president emeritus, William Morgan, and his wife, Lilla, to help foster a vibrant, rich, and evolving environment for the arts and cultural expression at Colorado State University. And we're very grateful for the support. Dr. Gifty Benson is a retired pediatric dentist born in Ghana, West Africa. Now a US citizen who lives in and is joining us tonight from Tulsa, Oklahoma, she creates programs and exhibits that introduce African culture from an African's point of view. Welcome, Dr. Benson, and thank you very much for being with all of us this evening.
Thank you, Doreen. Sarah, I cannot see the green button to share.
Yes, it should be at the bottom center of your screen. If you hold your mouse over the...
I saw it a couple of minutes ago. Okay, let me make this bigger and see what I can see. I can see it now.
Oh, perfect. Great. Great.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Gifty Benson, and I am the curator of Wandering Spirit, the History of African Wax Prints. This exhibit pays a tribute to the bold, beautiful, vibrant colors of African wax prints, and it's my pleasure and privilege to share my experience with you and to walk you through the exhibit. As early as 1846, we've had European printers flooding the West and Central African markets with wax prints. They're seen all over West and Central Africa, in every city, every village, every town. They're seen in markets in Accra, Monrovia, Freetown, Lomé, Abidjan, Lagos, everywhere. And they're also paraded in international fashion shows in Paris, in galleries in New York, Philadelphia, Amsterdam, and London. They're all over. I'm taking you to a market scene in Accra, Ghana, and you can see how these pieces of cloth, these vibrant colors, are folded on top of each other. It's a crowded market. You have to duck. You can see these little sheds packed end to end with the wax prints, and you have to duck to find your way in there. It's very, very busy. This is another stall. You can see the different colors, the blues, the greens, the purples, the browns, all piled on top of each other. Another scene, all packed together in a market in West Africa. So you get to the market, what you do is you point out what you need. And the trader will bring it out and cut it out for you according to the yardage that you want. We also see African wax prints in the West. This is Gwen Stefani's African print collection some time ago. And you can see again these vibrant, beautiful purple, burgundy colors, all made into these mini skirts. They're frilly, they're very nice. And you can see these long-legged models modeling them very well. Burberry also had an African print collection some time ago. And this is a very popular print that I'll talk about later. It's very, very popular. So I have shown you the crowded marketplace where the average person goes. This is the high end of the wax print. This is where the rich and famous go to. They go to the mall where you can see the displays are different. It's area, it's air conditioned, it's aesthetic, and you cannot bargain here, but you can bargain in the markets. The prices are fixed here. Again, in the mall, we have mannequins on display, and the dresses are made accordingly, and you can choose the dresses on the models, and they can make it for you if you choose the material to match. Again, they will show you the style. They'll give you a time for fit. It can take normally about 24 hours, and you get your suit made. And it's very expensive in the mall. We have Jill Biden here. She was in the Republic of Congo, and she saw this beautiful dress on the model, and she ordered it, and they made it for her. 24 hours, she got it. And when she came back to the United States, she used it at a party of African heads of state's wife gala. Amsterdam Museum of Art. Amsterdam is the stronghold, is where all our wax prints are made in Holland. And they had an exhibit, I think it's 2012, 2011, and they called it 6 Yards. And they showed the history of the African print, and you can see them all arranged on the wall in the Amsterdam Museum of Art. There was another show in Birmingham, United Kingdom, Museum of Art, African wax prints. And this is from the exhibit in Philadelphia Museum of Art, where they showed the African wax prints. And you can see the long skirts and the beautiful high slates and the designs and the beautiful headgear that match the prints. This is a wedding dress made from African print. Very, very nice, very elegant. You can see the flowing veil behind. And this is the bridesmaid of the bride. Beautiful dress. I would love to have a dress made like this for me. I love, love, love this dress. And this is another dress with made with our wax print. You can see the yellow frills behind. Very elegant, very, very nice. I was watching the Met Gala recently, the gowns that they showed, and this will make a perfect fit to go. If they had invited me, I would have ordered this to go. Another one, they use a leaf cutout to make the designs from the top, and they specialize in this in Ivory Coast. What I want you to leave here today, if you forget everything I tell you, is the African wax print is originally not African at all. We did not make this. We did not invent it. The African wax print was entrusted upon us. The origin is from Indonesia, And the African wax print was copied and industrialized by the Europeans and then exported to Africa. So it has crossed 3 continents, from Indonesia to Europe and then back to Africa. So the origin of African wax print is from the batik and from the textiles that were made in Indonesia. Although it's not African, it has become ingrained in our culture. We love it. We identify it as African, and it's become our staple. It's our standard cloth that we use in Africa. So this exhibit will trace the pathway that has crossed 3 continents, copied in Indonesia, printed in Europe, and exported to Africa. It's a history that's paved along colonial trade routes and globalization of the post-colonial era. So this is the story. Dutch East Indies, we call that Indonesia now, was a colony of, was a Dutch colony in 1800, from 1800 to 1949. Ships would leave Netherlands on their way to visit their colony. Ghana was a colony, was a Dutch colony. We used to call that Gold Coast. So the ship will sail from Netherlands and make a stop in West Africa, Ghana, a colony of Holland or the Netherlands. And when it stopped, they would trade in slaves, alcohol, gunpowder, gold, salt. The crew members were allowed to trade in textiles for extra income. So they will bring textiles from Holland and sell it to the Africans, make a little money. And then they get to Indonesia, they will pick up the batik. On their return, they will sell it to the Africans to make money. So this is the pathway from the Netherlands all the way around the west coast of Africa, stop in Ghana, do a little trading, go around the Cape of Good Hope, and then to Indonesia, do the administrative business. They will bring some batik, and then when they get here, they will sell it and go back. The process for handmade batiks originally was invented in the 8th century China, and then expanded to India, and then exported to Indonesia around the 12th and 13th centuries. The process was refined in, I'm going to call Java, Indonesia, because it's big. Indonesia over the years to produce a delicate form of batik. Beautiful batiks were made there. And this is the process of the batik making. The pattern is made on both sides of a cotton fabric with warm liquid wax. And they used a small brush cut with a spout. When the wax cools and solidifies, the cloth is dipped in a primary dye, usually indigo. And then they will remove it, remove the wax, and the fabric is colorless where the wax was previously applied. They will now re-wax the indigo areas and then dip the material, the same material, into a secondary dye. The secondary dye, usually sago brown. And after that, they will remove all the wax, and any remaining white areas is filled in by hand with different colors to give a rich, vibrant colored cloth. The Dutch considered it too time-consuming and too labor-intensive. So a Dutch printer by the name of Avenir converted a French printing machine into an industrially printing machine that could print imitation Indonesian batik using resin instead of wax. This invention laid down the basis and foundation for future success of many European wax printers. So they started printing the industrialized copies. In the 1800s, the Dutch cotton printing mills started making these less expensive industrialized alternatives to the labor-intensive handmade Indonesia batik. And they loaded a ship full of batik bound for Dutch East Indies or Indonesia to sell. When they got there, the Indonesians rejected the imitation batik. They hated it. They thought it was imperfect. They didn't like all the crackles and all the lines and all the dots there. They didn't like the imperfection. So nobody bought them. They had to repack all the industrialized batik into the ship and take it back to Holland. On the way to Holland, they stopped in Africa, and within 2 weeks, they were sold out. The entire ship was sold out. So the European printers had found a new niche in Africa. They were very happy. If the Indonesians don't want it, we're going to go to Africa. They identified Africa as the new potential market for the wax prints, because we were previously exposed to the batik. Remember, the crew members used to sell it privately to us, so we were exposed to it. Plus, they were less expensive, the colors were good, they were color fast, they were 100% cotton, and the Africans loved it. The Dutch wax printers have been the leaders in printing quality in the wax prints. Two companies, Anker Smith and Van Vlissingen, merged in 1964 to form a company that is known as Vlisco today. All other European printers have gone out of business. The only remaining printer known today, European printer, is Vlisco. And in 2010, there's a London-based equity fund, Actis, that purchased Vlisco. The African continent generates about 337.5 million net annual sales of African wax prints every year. About 95% of the gross sales. Vlisco, like I said, is the only European-based company that produces and exports prints to Africa today. It is the luxury name in wax prints. Everyone wants to wear Vlisco. The Vlisco brand carries an enormous amount of prestige in Africa. It's a status symbol if you wear Vlisco. It is in the same category as Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Burberry, and Jimmy Choo here. So the girls that wear the Vlisco wear the Chanel, they wear the Louis Vuitton and the Rolex watches and the Chanel bags and the Jimmy Choo shoes. Vlisco rules the market in Africa. Vlisco makes about 4 collections every year. Some of these productions are of limited edition. And I showed you the high-end flagship stores in the mall. That is how the stores look like. Every yard on the print has the label on the sell badge. So when you're walking through the exhibit, look for the label Vlisco on the sell badge. It's a prestige to wear Vlisco. 97% of the exhibit is Vlisco. Look for the label when you're walking through. So this is the Vlisco flagship store in Accra Mall. You see how airy and how elegant it is. We had other European wax printers, the ABC from England. They were competitive in their early 1900s, but they all gone out business. They all have gone out of business. The ABC Textile sold to the Chinese child group. The Chinese, as usual, have made a fortune in printing copies of poor quality wax prints. You can get them in the markets, but they're for the low end market. The textile, the cotton is of poor quality. They're very thin. You can even see through them, and they only print one side, and the colors do not last. They serve the low end market. We also have African wax print textile factories on the continent, but they're all subsidiary of the company, of the parent company, Blisco. So they make some in Africa now, but nobody wants the African ones. Nobody wants the Chinese one. Everyone wants the Blisco made in Holland label. In Africa, clothing depicts a person's social status, their position, political conviction, ambition, ethnicity, age, the whole works. And the wax prints follow that cultural trend. We have groups, and the affiliations and solidarity are expressed by donning all the guests with the same wax print pattern and color. Like there's a class reunion, there is some sort of birthday anniversary. They will all order one wax print, the same color, but each individual makes their own custom-made design. So the individuality is expressed in the custom-made design. White, when you're walking through the exhibition, any cloth that has white and indigo in the background is, we wear that on a happy occasion, a child after childbirth, celebrations. Bereavement and mourning is associated with black and red. If you see any wax print that has black for mourning, for the gloom and doom that has overcome the family, and red for the blood that has been shed. Wax prints are also used as courting presents. They make an essential part of a woman's dowry. The more the husband-to-be, the wax prints, the better and the happier the family is. We also have commemorative portrait editions that are printed to reflect political parties. So here, let's say you're going to the Democratic Convention, they're going to order one wax print, blue background, and everybody that goes to that convention is going to wear that. If you're going to a Republican, maybe a red one, and they will have the portraits of their candidates on the wax prints. The Europeans identify the fabrics solely by number. Like if I'm ordering something on Amazon, I'll give the SKU number. We do not have the SKU numbers in Africa because not all the market women can read. So they give their own names. When they get it, they give their own names according to the season, maybe a proverb, a secret message, current events. There is a story to every fabric. The fabrics are sold traditionally in 6-yard pieces. Everyone buys 6 yards. 6 yards is about 5.5 meters to make a complete outfit. 2 yards for the long skirt, 2 yards for the top, that is a peplum, and 2 yards for a sling or the headgear. The sling, the extra 2 yards, has many applications. You can use it as a head tie. You can use it as a decorative shawl that hang over one shoulder, or you can spread it over for warmth if you're in a cold weather. We also use it as a papoose ball. You can use it to carry your baby on the back, the extra cloth. And each complete outfit is custom made by a dressmaker. There are 3 types of wax prints. We have the wax block, the Java print, and the super wax. So when you're walking through the exhibit, look for them. Is this a wax block? Is this a Java? Or is this a super wax? All the prints are on 100% plain cotton or on damask. The damask is look a little thicker because the fabric has patterns that is formed by weaving, and that creates a layered effect on the damask cloth. So the first one is the wax block. The wax block is recognized by the layering of color and design, and they're printed on both sides with hot resin, and that creates the crackles and the dots. No two balls are alike because the resin will crack different places on it with every print. The wax block is the standard of African cloth, and it's about $65 to $100 for 6 yards for the Blisco. And this is an example of the wax block. And look for the label. It says guaranteed Dutch wax. That will be the wax block. The second one is the super wax. It uses an extremely very fine quality cotton and has only 2 primary colors and a marble pattern. It is the most expensive of the wax prints. Again, it's for the high end. And it ranges from about $120 for 6 yards to about $1,000 for 6 yards. So this is the super wax. And look for the label super wax on the self edge. The last one is called the Java print. It's the least expensive of them all. They do not utilize the resin for it. They only use dye, and they print it, and a great amount of pressure is put on the dye so that the dye can saturate through to where the other side of the cloth. It's less than $50 for 6 yards. And this is the Java print. Look for the word Java when you're going through the exhibits, and you can compare the 3, the wax, the super wax, and the Java. I'm going to go through a few of the wax prints and tell you the history and the names. This is called bull's eyes, and it was first designed in 1947, and they're still making it because it's still designed. It's a classic one. And they call it the bullseye because you can see this seductive eyes and these voluminous eyelashes here. And they call it a seductive cloth because the women wear this to seduce the man. Bullseye, 1947, and it's a wax block. This is called Happy Family. It was made in 1952. It first came out in 1952. The Happy Family is a wax block, and is the most widely sold and the most popular of all African prints since they started making it. And you can see right inside here is the mother hen surrounded by the chicks and the eggs. You can see the rooster, the guys, all pushed to the periphery. And only the head of the rooster is shown. This tells us how important the woman is in African traditional family. It's the woman that keeps the family together. This is another Happy Family wax block. This is made on damask, layered to give this textured feeling, different colors. They make different colors so that we can buy them. This is another one, Happy Family, on damask again, but this is plain burgundy. This is called Michelle Obama's bag, and it came out in 2008. It's a super wax, and we call it Michelle Obama's bag because the story goes that we can envision Michelle boarding a plane with a nice bag on her arm. In the French countries, they call this Louis Vuitton because it looks like the speedy version of Louis Vuitton bags. And this is called Rolls-Royce or Heckweck. And this was designed in 1979. It's a wax block. They call it a Rolls-Royce because the design resembles the emblem of the Rolls-Royce insignia. And I think in the Ivory Coast, they call it a bouquet, like a flower arrangement. It's a very, very, very popular wax block, and it gives the wearer good health and good luck. It's supposed to bring good luck and good health to the wearer. This is called a king's chair or tam tam, and it was made in 1980. It's a wax block. You can see the rich red and gold and indigo colors of the seated thrones of the chiefs. And again, this is a very, very, very popular cloth, and it is very much desired by brides to be. Every bride wants this on their bridal list. And it shows, it comes with a symbol of wealth. If you're wearing this, that means you're wealthy, you can afford this. This is a Java print, and it's called Obo Junction, and it was made in 1934. And it's called Obo Junction. Obo is the city in Ghana, and it's a very, very busy city. So it's a junction where you can see many, many cars going around and around in circles. In Togo, they call it the Sultan's subjects, with the Sultan in the middle and all the subjects going around him. In other countries, they call it the cowrie because they use the shell. They used to use the shell as a form of money in the olden days. So different names, different countries, and different seasons. This is the enlarged form of Obo Junction, made in 1934. This is called ABC. It's a wax block, and it was made, the first appeared in 1920, and they're still making them because it's still in demand. And it's supposed to help, the story is it's supposed to help with literacy. ABC, send your kids to school, let them know how to read and write. Another version of ABC. This is a wax block, and this is very interesting because I had Doreen say the leaves and the intricacies remind us of the batik, the ancient batik. And this is sort of a replica, it reminds the copying of that batik design. It is another name for this is the gardener's daughter in Ivory Coast. So this shows us how the old batik was made. This is called the Tortoise Shell, 1922. And if you look on top with a panoramic view, you can tell, you can equate this with the back of a tortoise. This is supposed to be a man's cloth because of the tortoise, the hard shell. It shows a man with backbone, and this is a man's cloth. I remember my dad had this cloth. He will not wear the pink ones, but this one is a man's cloth. And the men wear it as a toga. That's a big, like the Romans do, and then they throw it over their shoulders. This is called the broom or horsetail because it looks like the broom that we use to sweep in Africa, the bunch of sticks that we bind to sweep the floor in Africa. It's also called the horsetail because traditional chiefs used the horsetail as a fly swatter to swat flies from their bodies. And this looks like the fly swatter of the traditional chief. This is called the heart of Barack, the heart of Barack Obama. It was made in 2007. It's a super wax. We in Africa, we love Barack, and 6 different wax prints were named after Barack when he was in office. So this is one, the heart of Barack. We have the garden of Barack, the flowers of Barack. A lot of wax prints were named after Barack. This is called a bunch of banana or shell or helmet, different names, different places, different times. 1914, and they're still making it. It's a classic, it's a wax block, and it's very much in demand. Bunch of bananas because we think this look like fingers of banana coming out of a bunch. Some other countries, they call it a snail because it looks like this is a shell with a snail coming out of the shell. Bunch of bananas, shell, helmet, 1914 is a wax block. And this is very popular. We call it a record or water well or target, 1936, still in print, wax block. We call it record because it reminds us of us older ones. We used to have these records, this 45s and 33s, you know, the analog sound storing system. Or water well. We have these deep water wells in Africa. And when you look down and you throw a stone into the well, you can see this ripple effect going from the center towards the outside. That's why we call this the water well or target, because they have a center target here. Record 1936. This is Guinea Fowl. First came out in 1937. It's a wax block. And the Guinea Fowl is a bird that is endemic to West Africa, south of the Sahara. It's like a partridge. The only difference is our Guinea Fowl is bald. It doesn't have any hair on the head. And they use Guinea Fowl. Vlisco will send scouts to Africa to take pictures of the fauna, of birds, of trees, to make wax prints so that we can recognize them and enjoy them. And they make them for us. So the Guinea Fowl has been printed in many forms in African prints, small, large. This is called the wandering spirit, and this gives us the name of our exhibit. And you can see this little bird flying, and we think in Ghana that this little bird is flying away from Ghana to go to England, to go to America, to go everywhere. That spirit is wandering, it does not settle. So we decided to call the exhibit Wandering Spirit because the spirit of the wax print has started from Indonesia, wandered all the way to Europe, and then all the way back to Africa. So that is why we call it the Wandering Spirit, the exhibit of African wax print. This is another one. We call this the corkscrew, 1953, because it looks like a corkscrew on one end and an opener on the other end. It's a wax block. This is a necklace or tomato. You can see the necklace intermingled with tomato, 1977. Originally, it's a Dutch, but I put this in there. This is the only Chinese one that is in there. So look for the quality, the poor quality, and compare it to the other Vlisco fabrics. We call this brain. The brain is a wax block, 1998, and it was named after Kofi Annan. Kofi Annan was a Ghanaian, the Secretary General of the United Nations. We thought he was very brainy, so this looked like a brain, so we call it a brain after Kofi Annan. We call this dice or Ludo because the square, it resembles the dice that we use for games with the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the side. Ludo is a very popular card name, a card game that we play in Ghana. So we call this Ludo, 6 Meludo, 1933, and it's very popular. It's made, let me go back. It's made into school uniforms. And there's a popular book, I think it's called Kings of Africa, and this forms the dust cover of that book. And this is another one, this imitation from the ancient practice of this delicate weave of leaves in this pattern. And in Ghana, we call it ahinepa nkasa, which means precious stones do not boast. When this came into sales, it was not picking up. People did not like it, but eventually it became one of the top selling wax prints in Ghana, 1933. This is called Angelina, Miriam Makeba, Addis Ababa, and those of us older ones, you can relate this to the hippie movement. This used to be very popular then. It's been used on runways, and this design was copied from a Coptic altar cloth. And it's it's one of the popular and one of the classic ones. Miriam Makeba was a South African singer, a Grammy winner, and some people call this Miriam Makeba, or Addis Ababa will be the capital of Ethiopia. This is a Java, we call that Kwame Nkrumah pencil, 1961, because it resembles pen or pencils. And Kwame Nkrumah was our first president in Ghana. So this cloth was named after him, 1961. And the last one is called escalator or staircase. In Ghana, we call it death ladder, the ladder that goes to hell. And you can see the staircase going down here in the stairway. In the French countries, they call this escalator. And you can see the moon depicted on the background of the staircase. So this is the end of my story, and I'm ready for any questions.
Dr. Benson, thank you so much. I went through the exhibit when we first opened it. I went through it again today, and I'm going to do it again over the next month or so. just because I have so much more of an appreciation. And as you were talking about some of them, the Heart of Barak is right over there, so I could look at the real thing. And when you were talking about the horsetail, I could look over at that one. So thank you very much. I have a question that I've wondered about since we thought about bringing this exhibit to the Avenir Museum. And maybe you could share just a little bit about how you and your mother came to collect these. Were these pieces that were given to you? Did they just catch your eye? How did you happen to build your collection that eventually ended up in this exhibit that's been traveling for 5 years?
Okay, in Africa, this is what we inherit. In the West, you inherit maybe silver or China. So this is what our mothers give us. If someone in our family dies, they're going to take all the wax springs and distribute it among the family. Everybody will get a piece. If the person is rich, 2, 3 pieces. And my mom left me a lot of these pieces. I remember when we were young, we used to wash them, iron them, starch them, and pile them in her wardrobe. And she left me a lot. I used to visit her a lot. And you ask, she said, Gifty, take them with you because, and you know, I live in America. She said, if something happens to me, somebody will come in and take them all. So she piled a whole bunch of this and a few other things. I'm not going to go into it. And that's how come I inherited them. And I collected a few too. And this collection is called the Beatrice Benson collection, named after her. That's her.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So some of the ones that I see that are around me that do date from the 1920s versus, say, Heart of Barak, which is much later, those earlier pieces she collected at a much earlier time in her life then.
Right. Yeah. And the new ones are mine.
I see. Yeah. Thank you.
I do have a few questions that have come up in the chat. So the first one is, how do you translate the design to be visually executed as best as it can be into wax?
Can you say that again?
So the question revolves around exactly how you kind of create the design, and then how does it physically go into the wax? What's that process like, executing the design into the wax design onto the fabric?
Right. The process of the design is still in Holland. They choose about 6 people who are artists and programmers and everything in Holland, and they design them. They design them with no names in mind. Whatever comes to their mind, they design, and we put our African names on it. So they will design like a tail, and then we will call it a horsetail or a broom. And they do it on the computer now, right? 3-dimension, and then put it on the textile. Everything is computerized now, and they even factor in the crackles because we like them, and the dark, the imperfection. They even do that on the computer to create that design. So you get about 6 or 10 smart people in a room. They close the door and they say, go ahead and design. So any design that comes into their mind, they put it on paper and on computer. It gets to Africa and we give them the name. And they're surprised at the number of the different names that we give their design because they don't even have that in mind when they create them.
Interesting. One more question that's in the chat. You referenced a man's cloth, but are most of these designs worn by both men and women, or are they kind of gender specific?
Some are, a few are. Like I mentioned one, I showed one that is, when I say gender specific, the men will wear it as well as the women. But there's some where the men will not wear because of the color and it's too floral. It has to be masculine. And that one is considered masculine.
Another question. So you mentioned the designs are really created in Europe, and then they're given meaning once they hit the African market. Do you have any sense for what makes a design popular, or what makes it a classic, or what really helps it resonate with the culture?
Oh, no, really. I cannot. It's like everything. I mean, you never know what book or what movie is going to be popular here. We can never tell which is going to be popular over there. Some, like I showed you one that I said, Ahine Pankasa, in the beginning, it didn't sell at all. And then 5 years later, it took off and overtook all the sales in there. So you can never tell which is going to be popular, but some are more popular. And I can tell you the bunch of bananas, Angelina, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama's bags. They're very, very, very popular. You never know what is going to be popular. And these names, like there's one that I said is the gardener's daughter. Another name for it is called good living. And good living, the cloth, the wax print came in at the time of plenty. Everybody had a lot to drink, a lot to eat, and there was enough rain, the harvest was good. So this one came in, we call it good living. And then we have another one called bad year, like Annus Horribilis, came in the drought. There was no rain, everybody was hungry. And this cloth came in, so we call it the drought, or we call it bad year. So depending on the season, depending on the environment, depending, like a lot of factors come in before they name the cloth.
Awesome. And then two more really great questions from the chat. Is the popularity still holding on with the younger generation?
Yes and no. The younger generation, and that is our staple. The younger generation are still buying them, but the younger generation cannot afford the Blisco. So they would buy the made in Ghana, the Blisco made in Ghana. But it's the older generation that will stick on to the Blisco made in Holland. So they wear them. You saw all those beautiful design in the dresses. The younger generation wear them all the time, but they use more of the less expensive ones. They cannot afford the expensive ones.
Mm. And then do you have any comments on Gwen Stefani's collection and the current concern around cultural appropriation? Do Africans feel offended by Europeans wearing wax print?
No, we do not. The problem with Europeans and like Gwen Stefani's collection, they will have to take permission from Blisco. There was a company that did it was a Japanese company that used the wax print without getting permission from Blisco, and Blisco sued them big time. But we in Africa, we like it to be shown, we like it to see everyone wearing it, and we don't have any problems with it at all. The other problem will be the academics. Like you go to Oxford University, the people that associate the wax print with colonialism. They think the Europeans brought it on us and forced us to wear it. They do not want, they want it out. But there's very few of them. And they're against the wax print, but it's in the academic level. It has not seeped down to the normal person yet, to the average person yet. But there are people who have apprehensive about it, about the West using it. But in the main, we like it to be advertised. We like it to be used. We like to see them. I would love to see you in one.
I don't see too many more questions in the chat, but I know one from me. Would you share a little bit about what you're wearing today for your presentation?
Okay, what I'm wearing, and I'll get up for you guys to see. It's called Cinche Bridge. And Cinche Bridge is a suspension bridge in Ghana, and it's always floating from side to side. So this weave is there, and we call it Cinche Bridge because of the weaving pattern in there.
It's beautiful. So I'm curious, do you have much opportunity to wear it? I mean, certainly it's just beautiful on you in a presentation like this. Do you have other opportunities to wear it?
Not here, but pre-COVID, I go to Africa often because I have a foundation there, and that's where I wear them. But we love wearing them. It's like wearing a kimono. You have to walk different, you know, yes, because the long skirt, you have to take shorter steps, and you have to be very careful you don't fall over.
There are, for those of you who've not seen the pieces in the exhibit, there are several mannequins that have apparel that's made out of wax prints. And given sort of that 2 yards for the shawl or the head covering, and then the bodice, and then the skirt, the variety, even in the pieces that are here, is astonishing. And I'm taken by the sleeve cap, the sleeves and the sleeve cap, the amount of fabric and work and stitching. Some of those sleeve caps I counted, I came in and counted, careful not to touch, but I counted. And the one that's kind of the signature piece for the exhibit has 20 sections in each sleeve cap sewn down the middle to attach it. And I just, you know, it's machine sewn, yes, but even so, there is a lot of work in these. So it's really
right. And I wanted the exhibit to carry the 6 mannequins that come with it. Mm-hmm. And it's much nicer. But Made America said it would be too expensive to ship the 6 mannequins. So they cut it down to 3. But there are other museums who have a larger area, and they asked, do you have any more? And then we can send them over, and they showed it. When they went to Florida, I think they showed about 10 or 12 mannequins because they had a large area.
Well, it's just quite an impression when you come into the gallery. I noticed in the chat there was, is it Alex Hopkins who made a comment, and I don't know if it's in a language of Ghana. Do you see that there, Sarah?
What did they say?
Maybe Alex can jump on and say it.
Just so it's pronounced correctly?
Yeah.
Is Alex Ghanaian?
Alex, are you there and willing to unmute and pronounce the word?
Hi, I'm not Ghanaian, but it's Madasi.
Madasi, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you too.
I wondered if that might be the meaning, so thank you. Are there any other questions? If there aren't any, Sarah, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, this might carry us over a little too much, but one thing that I have been wondering, Dr. Benson, we studying clothing and apparel really have noticed a shift in the last several years of kind of fast fashion and overconsumption, and really a lot of American and European overconsumption. All those clothes are getting donated and being sent to secondhand clothing markets in Accra, primarily. And I wonder if kind of that American and UK waste has any effect on the textile culture or in Ghana, just having that influx.
Yes, it's beginning to. In the beginning, we had a lot of like secondhand clothing, used clothing, and they were good quality ones. But now what is coming in is not good quality. It's sort of forming a dumping ground to all these endless textiles that are being donated here. And it's becoming a problem, and people are thinking twice about importing them now, or they will have to, in the very near future, they will have to find a new dumping place because we are becoming awakened and knowing like they're dumping this on us. What do we do with them?
Mhm. Mhm. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Well, again, Dr. Benson, thank you so much, first of all, for the exhibit, for joining us this evening, and just giving us so much more appreciation for being able to walk around the gallery. I also want to say thank you to you because you're in Central Time and it's an hour later for you. So thank you so much. It's just been a real pleasure. We're thankful to have the exhibit here for another couple of months. And so hopefully many people in the audience can come back and see it or see it for the first time. But again, thank you very much for joining us for the program. And I'll wish everybody a good evening.
And thank you, it's been my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you so much. Wonderful program. This is Martha.
Well, thank you, Martha. I thought that was you, but the minute I say, is that Martha Denny, it would be Martha D, someone else. So
Yeah, that's me.
you.
Thanks.
yeah, thanks
Yeah,
for
it was a
coming.
great talk. Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
she just, when Sarah and I met with her, with Dr. Benson earlier in the week, just to iron out, little technical details, she mentioned that she's 6'2". So in those clothing, in the clothing, she just looked luminous on camera. So I can't imagine what she would look like, how commanding she would be in person with, such draping and pattern and color, and then the height that she has. So be very, very regal.
Wonderful.
Yep. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for doing this. It's so exciting. I've been collecting and studying these things for a long time, and it's great to see.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. So
Good night, everyone.
thank you. Good night.
Good night.